one could maintain and sustain the system is to try to agree to disagree in decency and civility. And so the aspect of tolerance, the patience to accept divergence is something that definitely will take away.
The Speaker of the Ghanaian Parliament leads a delegation of lawmakers to this year's National Conference on State Legislatures.
The only way we can solve this issue is to have it. Remember, the president himself must ask some questions. It is not, doesn't really add up that the Controller General of Prison is still the Controller General of Prison with the auspicious attack that took place at Kuje Prison.
The Chief of Defense Staff of the Nigerian Army assures the public that next year's general election will hold.
We'll continue to sustain advocacy, including legal advocacy, continue with the case in court, continue to educate the Nigerian public to understand the context of this action and the discussions around it and the need for people to hold government to account to ensure that security of life and property is guaranteed for all Nigerians.
And a civil society group files a legal challenge to force the Nigerian government to reverse fines on media groups over allegations of glorifying terrorism. Those stories and more coming up on Nightline Africa. The Speaker of the Ghanaian Parliament recently led a delegation of lawmakers to this year's National Conference on State Legislatures. Speaker Alban Bagbin says the major takeaways of the meeting will help the Ghanaian lawmaking body to further entrench the country's democracy. The Ghanaian delegation includes both the majority and minority leaders of the political divide, clerk of parliament and technical staff. Officials say the three-day summit brought together lawmakers from the U.S. and some of the world's burgeoning democracies. Established in 1975, the non-partisan National Conference on State Legislatures has as its members current state legislators from territories of the Commonwealth and the U.S. The Speaker of the Ghanaian Parliament spoke with me about this year's summit and the major takeaways.
Well, mainly we look at how Parliament works, the underpinnings of Parliament and, in fact, democratic governance. And for this year, we focused on ethics, code of conduct. We also looked at areas that could assist us address the democratic reversals that we're having in the world. There were a number of research papers that drew our attention to the strategies of the big powers in the world on Africa. We also had to look at issues of participation and inclusiveness. The world is moving in a direction that I don't think any of us is happy about. There are so many uncertainties. And so as we take the opportunity of this platform to exchange ideas and experiences. And I think Ghana has tremendously benefited from that. And we're doing everything we could to improve parliamentary democracy in Ghana.
Mr. Speaker, talking about parliamentary democracy in Ghana, how beneficial will this conference be for you as the Speaker? How beneficial will this be for your work?
Definitely, I came here with much experience on these matters. And one of the things I decided to do and to take away to the country is to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the National Conference for State Legislatures to focus particularly on areas that are germane to Ghana, and we succeeded in doing that. And so we're now going to be involved not just at the conference level, but on other programs that could lead to the capacity building of members and staff of the Parliament of Ghana. We will also be sharing our experiences with them as much as we learn from them. We're going to use this opportunity to strengthen the Parliamentary Training Institute that we have established in Ghana, and in fact in Ghana's Parliament. And we're also going to use the opportunity to try to fish out how the option that Ghana has chosen, the option that we've chosen in Ghana is not just one of majoritarianism, but it is an option that could see an independent person being the president of Ghana without party members in parliament. We could see a minority government, that is a president with minority members in parliament, and we could also have coalition government. And so we took the opportunity to discuss with our colleagues here and also in other countries how one could manage such a system.
Talking about improving the system at home, how will this experience and the ongoing engagement with other democracies entrench the tenets of democracy in Ghana democracy experiment?
Well, this is the fourth time, and therefore we call it the Fourth Republic, that Ghana has tried to chart a sustainable democratic governance. I think that the most important, what sometimes is lacking in our country, is that of democratic tolerance, how to accept diversity, plurality, and differences in views and opinion, and how to disagree with somebody in civility. And I think that these things don't only find expression on the floor of Parliament, but also in everyday discourse, particularly political exchanges. With the exchanges that we've gone through, we definitely tell them that yes, these things are common all over the world, but the way one could maintain and sustain the system is to try to agree to disagree in decency and civility. And so the aspect of tolerance, the patience to accept divergence, is something that definitely will take away.
Alban Bagbin is the Speaker of the Ghanaian Parliament. He spoke with me from New York, here in the U.S. The Chief of Defense Staff of the Nigerian Army is assuring the public that next year's general election will proceed as scheduled. This following concerns over the worsening security situation in the West African country. But General Lwokutta says the military will do everything possible to see that nothing stops prospective voters from participating in the elections. Nigerians are scheduled to choose a new president on February 2. But many worry that the deteriorating security situation will prevent the elections from being held. It followed a recent prison break in Abuja, a surge in kidnappings and violence carried out by militant groups including Boko Haram and ISWAP, an attack on presidential guards, as well as threats by militants to kidnap President Muhammadu Buhari. For more reaction to the assurances of the military, I reached Attorney Douglas Ogbankwa. He is a security analyst and a respected legal writer.
What some of us clamoring for rather is for there to be some elements of proactiveness in the activities of the security services and the security architecture of Nigeria in turning the certain heights of banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism. When the government came into power in 2015, the insurgency was just in the north and northeastern part of Nigeria. But as of now, we have insurgency in practically every of the 6 political zones in Nigeria. I'll tell you, the Nigerian army is overwhelmed. The police themselves, they also have to deal with civil issues. The Department of State Services, sometimes they try in getting intelligence, but there must be some kind of symmetry and synergy between all the security services in this country.
Isn't it good that the Chief of Army Staff, General Irabo, is assuring Nigerians that they will be protected if they decide to go to the polls due to the insecurity concerns that you just expressed?
The statement of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Irabo, that Nigerians will be protected during the election, it's actually reassuring. However, we would enjoin them to walk the talk. What I mean by that is that I believe in practicality. I don't believe in statement-making issues. I like when state actors are able to make statements by their actions and not by their words. So if, for instance, we find that keeping of the different bandits of terrorists in different parts of the country have been arrested or neutralized with evidence, because what we find is that the security services will say we have neutralized or arrested a particular number of terrorists. We do not see them. We need evidence that these things are being done. We need to really see that these people are being arrested and that these people are being neutralized in all parts of the country.
Douglas, some people have expressed concern that due to the deteriorating security situation, that the security agencies are overwhelmed by the number of attacks being carried out by militant groups, Boko Haram, ISWAP, and other bandits all across the country. Do you share that sentiment?
Absolutely. You know, the federal government of Nigeria have actually treated this issue with kid gloves. So you realize that is why it has escalated. You know, I really don't think that the Nigerian army or the other security agencies are so weak that you can have what I call them ragtag, militias who do not even have formal training. Sometimes I wonder if they have enough equipment and armaments like the army and the other services have. And the government has an unusual element of having to have information from multiple sources. The federal government of Nigeria has close to 17 different security agents that can engage in intelligence gathering. So I think they are being overwhelmed. But beyond that, I also feel that the Nigerian immigration services is to blame for the rise of insurgency in Nigeria. Reason being that the Nigerian immigration service has abandoned their roles of tracking the influx of aliens.
Do you think the security chiefs can come up with some new strategic measures that will contain and perhaps suppress the spate of violence in order to ensure that prospective voters are protected during next year's elections?
The no for me. I think it is time for the president to change guard. The current security chiefs at all levels have failed, and they do not have a solution to our problem. The primary purpose of government is protection of life and property, and the government does that through its security apparatus. And so what we have currently is that you have people who don't even have an idea of what to do. There is a problem with finding out whether the funding that is meant for the security services gets to the men that really need them, whether the arms and ammunition that have been projected or budgeted for have been purchased. These are very thorny issues. And the only way we can solve these issues is to have it. Remember, the president himself must ask some questions. If it's not, doesn't really add up that the Controller General of Prison is still the Controller General of Prison with the audacious attack that took place at Kuje Prison.
Douglas Ogbankwa is a security analyst and a respected legal writer. He spoke with me from the Nigerian capital, Abuja. Meanwhile, a civil society group has filed a legal challenge to force the Nigerian government to reverse fines it imposed on media groups over allegations of glorifying terrorism. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, or SERAP, says the fines sharply contravene constitutional provisions that protect freedom of speech. The move came after the media regulatory body, the National Broadcasting Commission, or NBC, imposed about $12,000 on media groups for airing documentaries about terrorism and bandits in Nigeria. The documentary, the agency argued, undermines the country's security and contravenes provisions of the Nigerian Broadcasting Code. But SERAP contends that the government has yet to prove that the documentaries glorify terrorism or undermine national security. It described the fines as illegal. For more reaction about the fines and subsequent legal challenge, I reached Kolawole Oluwadare. He is the Deputy Director of SERAP.
Yes, the lawsuit is coming on our letter to the President, the Minister of Information, and the regulatory body in Nigeria on the proposed their plan to find the stations, which they eventually carried out. And that is based on constitutional provisions for freedom of expression, which is constitutionally guaranteed in Nigeria. And what these media houses have done is not unlawful. They didn't break any laws. The investigation itself that led to the documentaries that were done, which the TV stations just aired, is not wrong. It contains information which some are in the public domain, and it's more educative. It does not contain any element that could be termed as unlawful in Nigeria, which is why we are challenging the fines, particularly given that fairing was preached. The minister and the agency assumed the role of the complainant. They also served as the judge that determined the culpability of these media houses, and ultimately they want to levy execution. That is clearly wrong.
Kola, some people are of the view that the government is right because it's in the process of combating these terrorist activities, and that by broadcasting it, it gives the terrorists a leg up, undermining Nigeria's security, and that it has to be stopped somehow, and this is a first step. Your reaction to that?
If at all, the government should be grateful for those who made the documentaries and for the media houses that aired the documentary. At least, so the average Nigerians, they know the identity, including the names of those who are involved in insecurity in Nigeria, banditry and terrorism and all that. If government knows that, why are they not telling the people? So if the people deserve to know all things, including the level of security they have, able to plan their lives and live a meaningful life. And so there is nothing, I repeat, in those documentaries that glorifies terrorism. It provides facts and information that the public needs to know as Nigerians, which rather should have been provided by government.
What are you asking the court to do?
We're asking the court to set aside the fine imposed on the media houses, to declare it unlawful and incompatible with constitutional provisions, that is Section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution, that guarantees freedom of expression. And in this context, the freedom of expression that is breached is that of the media houses to be able to express themselves, and that of Nigerians who rely on these media houses for information. And that we believe the court will do ultimately. We'll have a day in court.
What do you think are the prospects of success of this lawsuit against the federal government?
We are very hopeful. The laws are on our side. The Constitution is very clear as to the rights that Nigerians have, including these media houses. And the laws that the NPC relies on to sanction these media houses is inferior to the constitutional provisions, because the Constitution is supreme. So we are very, very confident that the court will determine in the favor of Nigerians, not only in favor of Sarah, but in favor of Nigerians and in favor of freedom of expression.
Well, Kola, some people are saying these are not normal times, so extraordinary measures would have to be taken in order to ensure the protection of life and property, and that anything else that is done by any media group that undermines it, the government needed to act, and that is why the government acted. And faulting the government for acting and for carrying out its constitutional duty itself, they said is unacceptable. Your response to that?
The government cannot break laws to create law and order. Government cannot act with impunity and expect the rule of law to be here. The principles that apply to derogation from fundamental rights are very clear and well set out in Section 45 of the Nigerian Constitution. And there are various elements and principles that need to be considered. We're talking of necessity, we're talking of proportionality and legality. The actions of government in this instance is not legal. Is it proportional? I don't think so. Is it necessary? It is not. There is no law that has been breached by broadcasting these documentaries.
What's next for Serap concerning this issue? What's next after this court case?
We'll continue to sustain advocacy, including legal advocacy, continue with the case in court, continue to educate the Nigerian public to understand the context of this action and the discussions around it, and the need for people to hold government to account and to ensure that security of life and property is guaranteed for all Nigerians.
Olukwe is the Deputy Director of Serap. He spoke with me from the Nigerian capital, Abuja. Zambia's main opposition Patriotic Front, or PF, is calling for an investigation into the burglary at the residence of former President Edgar Lungu. The incident, which has since been reported to the police, occurred this week. Several items were reportedly stolen from the home in the capital, Lusaka. The police have since launched an investigation into the break-in. The former president, the PF says, was out of the country seeking medical attention when unidentified people broke into his residence while the former First Lady was at home. The break-in, the opposition party contends, is an assault on Zambia. Local media reports this is the second time a residence of a former president has been burglarized. This after thieves broke into former President Rupia Banda's residence and made away with several items. For more reaction to the burglary, I reached Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. He is a leading member of the opposition PF party.
Yes, we learned with sadness that while the former president himself traveled yesterday to South Africa for a routine medical checkup, around 01 in the night, there was a reported burglary where unknown people came into the house and apparently seemed to have taken 2 television sets, and we don't know what else they did. But the break-in was such a surprise. The former First Lady, Madam Esther Lungu, was in the house, and they learned later that there was this very suspicious break-in. Remember, the former president is entitled to state security. The Constitution provides for 24-hour security to the former head of state and other facilities. Although the former president himself was not at the residence, the break-in is something we've gotten surprised about. It has since been reported to state security and to the police, and we have urged the police to get down to this matter, to understand what this is all about.
Well, Ambassador Emmanuel, I understand that investigations have begun in earnest, and a lot of Zambians are also here are unhappy about this development. What are you hearing?
Of course, because the former head of state is entitled to security, and his life is at stake if burglars can walk in and out of his residency at will, as it appears to have occurred. It's a vast residence with, but it has a perimeter wall and it has secure premises. So to have been attacked in this fashion, especially when he was not present, even raises more questions than answers. It's a matter of serious worry to all of us.
Zambia, as we all know, is a peaceful and stable country. I hope former First Lady was not injured in this burglary, was she?
No, she was not injured at all, but she was traumatized to understand that there were people in the areas of part of the house, unknown people, which both the security at the gate were not aware of, and even ourselves, because the entire house was properly secured and when they went to bed. So it's a matter that has traumatized the family, and it has raised concern to all of us. We've appealed to the police to get to the bottom of this. There are other speculations that maybe it could be some state officials or intelligence people, but we cannot confirm any of that. That would be against the Constitution. That would be against the law. Because if you want to inspect the premises of the former president, you get a warrant from court and do the inspection. So the manner in which this burglary was done has raised a serious worry to all of us. And we fear for the safety of the former president if his house can be burgled in. Remember, we have a long-established democracy in Zambia. Having former presidents is not an issue. We've had Dr. Kenneth Kaunda as the former president, President Chiluba as the former president, President Rupia Banda as the former president, and none of this has ever happened at the residence of the former president.
Well, some people are suggesting that this burglary is an attack on the Zambia state itself.
In fact, that is why as a party, we've requested His Excellency the President Hakainde Hichilema to ensure that he deals with this matter himself, because it reflects badly on government that they are failing to secure even their former president.
What has been the reaction of the former First Lady?
No, we were quickly alerted, and our duty was then to quickly report to the police on the sad event, and we needed to have assurances that the former First Lady is safe. As I have stated, the former President, President Lungu himself, traveled out of the country yesterday for a routine medical checkup in South Africa.
Emmanuel Mwamba is a leading member of the opposition PF party. He spoke with me from the Zambian capital, Lusaka.